Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to give my first impressions of Adam, the Beginning. This is a kind of prequel origin story to Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy. And so it says original story by Osamu Tezuka, concept by Masami Yuki, and art by Tetsuro Kasahara. These are library books. I don't own this series. My library had volumes 1 through 6 so far, and I believe they have volume 7 on order. I think, based on my research, this is 20 volumes long currently, but I believe it's ongoing in Japan. I could be wrong about that. It was just a quick look I did a few days ago. But anyway, this is one I was interested in because the art looks really stunning, but it wasn't something I was going to buy. My library has gotten better recently at picking up manga. It was abysmal before. I've lived in this same city for 14 years now, and it's just been abysmal the majority of the time I've lived here. And finally, they've started picking up some manga. And so thankfully, I'm able to go and borrow some stuff. So some of the reviews and first impressions you'll see will be stuff that I've borrowed from the library because I'm trying to cut back on my spending, but still want to enjoy some newer titles that I don't really feel like I want to buy. But anyway, Adam, the Beginning is one of those titles that when I saw they had a whole chunk of it there at the library, I decided to grab it. So I've read volume 1 and 2 already. But I still have up to volume 6 to read from the library currently. But yeah, I've not actually read Astro Boy. I've seen a little bit of it, but nothing substantial. I mean, I obviously know what it is. It's a classic. I mean, at this point in my life, if I was to read it, it would simply be because it's a classic rather than like any actual general interest or genuine interest in the series itself, because, I mean, it is for children. I have not read a lot of other spin-offs of it either. I have one volume of Pluto, but it's a random volume I found used. It's something I've always wanted to read by, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, Naoki Urasawa. But yeah, like it's always kind of in the realm of interest to me, but nothing like substantially, like I absolutely need to read or own all this kind of stuff. But I have been getting a bit more into robots recently, and so this also piqued my interest for that reason. So anyway, this is released by Titan Comics, by the way, as well. So this series is about these scientists who are they're at a university, and the two main characters, or I guess our main character and he is like the lab partner of this guy, they claim to be geniuses. And I mean, they're not wrong, but nobody else sees them as that. And this girl here on the couch is our main character's little sister, who's in high school. So anyway, they have a lab at a university, and they're in lab number 7. So theirs is the worst of the 7 labs, the least amount of funding and all this stuff. Lab number 1 has the like mega uber genius guy who's rich, and they're just kind of the lowlifes in a back building somewhere on campus, creating these robots. And they're trying to create a robot that has, for lack of a better word, like emotions, but that's not really that's not it exactly. They're trying to create a robot that can sort of act and understand as if it understands human emotion, but it doesn't actually have emotion. And so they have this prototype robot that they've been creating and successfully creating. And so far in the series, this robot has already saved a bunch of lives several times, to not very much recognition that that's what's happened. So anyway, these two geniuses are in their lab kind of unbothered by the rest of the world because nobody else really cares about what they're doing or cares for their research or anything. But they're arguably, I mean, we haven't seen what everybody else is doing except for kind of the number one lab group. They're arguably doing the best of the work and the most interesting of the work, but nobody really takes them seriously. But now, as of Volume 2, their prototypes are becoming more visible in society, spiking more interest amongst the academic field. And so now they're kind of so far being thrust into this world where they definitely belong and where they believe they belong as well. It's just that they're so used to being kind of pushed aside and not really taken seriously that now all of a sudden some of the key players in this field are taking an interest in them and what they're doing, but not necessarily in a positive way, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I find it fascinating so far. I think this kind of like it's sort of it's a sci-fi world where like robot technology is like extremely present and high tech. Not to say that our world doesn't have that, but this is a bit more focused on robots in this universe in a way that like there's massive mega robots and they're used for various things and all this stuff. So anyway, it is a fun sort of like comedy while at the same time having a pretty serious action heavy presence. So I think it's got a nice mixture of, you know, kind of ridiculous, nostalgic feeling anime. To be honest, it feels kind of like almost like Genshiken and Welcome to the NHK sort of thing, which like not exactly in that way, but like that sort of nostalgic feeling I get when I read those series about these like people who are really geeky and nerdy and knowledgeable about a specific topic, kind of existing in the same space, this little clubhouse-esque space, and trying to like prove to the world that they matter and that their ideas and their thoughts and their opinions and their knowledge matters, while also still being like a fun kind of friendship sort of vibe. But at the same time, in this case specifically, there's like some life or death scenarios taking place, which obviously those other two series don't necessarily have. But it's that sort of nostalgic feeling I get when I read this, which is fun as well. So, I mean, the artwork, I don't love the character designs of the people. I think they're kind of lacking in comparison to the designs and the backgrounds of the action sequences and then the robots themselves. Even just like cars and machines and all that. Like, there's a nice picture of the robot. Yeah, like I think that it's just, there's so many like really cool spreads and stuff that like the character designs of the humans is just kind of not really the focal point. So I can forgive the fact that I don't love their designs, but at the end of the day, I'm looking at the robots and the backgrounds and the action sequences and all that kind of stuff that I find visually very appealing in this series. So anyway, I am excited about this. I think that, like I said, this is not something I would have purchased personally because it's really not up my alley in that sort of way. But I am glad that I have access to read it. I'm glad my library has it because it has been something that every time I see in somebody's collection, I'm like, I really think I would like to try that out. So yeah, I'm excited that I have the opportunity to do that for sure. But yeah, I think if you have any interest in robots, this is a great series for you. If you like that sort of like I said, like nostalgic feeling of like nerdy people just nerding out about the thing that they are really knowledgeable about. I think this has that fun aspect too. Whether or not that's going to stick around or if that's just kind of a beginning of the series vibe, I don't know. Because I'm assuming this series is going to get more and more serious as it goes along. But yeah, it's very fun and interesting and dynamic with the artwork, particularly during action scenes. So yeah, and then obviously the whole discussion about AI and do these robots have feelings or emotions, or are they just there for our programming to make them do what we tell them to do, kind of thing, and that whole aspect of all these types of series, as well as is certainly present and the focal point of the series. So anyway, if you've read this, love to hear your thoughts on it. If anything I've said sounds interesting to you, definitely give it a shot. Otherwise, thank you for watching.